All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the Against the Grain podcast brought to you by 16 Under Golf. So we have an interesting topic today once we get into it, but we're going to be discussing the rollback that these, how do we phrase it, Cade?
They've got this ingenious idea of once again, let's screw golf because it's finally taken traction and the world is wanting to play more. So let's just kill the ball with 30 yards less distance. Good idea, right?
Right.
That's what the USGA thinks.
Right.
And I hate to throw all the blame on the USGA. The RNA is involved, but that's more the European branch. But they're the two governing bodies of rules of golf and how it works. So that's where the blame lays in the U.S., in my opinion.
Well, I think the main problem, I've seen a lot of these articles saying that this would only affect, tour players in these big tournaments like the U.S. Open and, tournaments of that magnitude, that it wouldn't affect the average day-to-day golfer like me and you. But here's the problem that I see with that. People want to play how the pros play, right? So if we go out and we play a game and we're gambling money or whatever we're doing, we're going to be trying to play, legitimate rules of golf. We're not just out there making up our own rules as we go. I'm sure some people play like that.
Unless you're at the club on Saturday. Nobody plays by rules.
Right. How can we forget? But, the main thing is that you want to play how you see the professionals playing on TV. You want to use the same equipment, the same. When one of those guys gets a new driver, everybody rushes out and tries to get that driver. And so I think if you introduce this new golf ball, you're just going to have a series of people wanting to, hey, we're playing with this golf ball. And then what are you going to do? You're going to get in your, day-to-day tournaments like member guest at a country club, and then some people are going to be playing with the ball that hits 30 yards shorter than this guy, and there are going to be new excuses, new problems.
Right.
What ball should we use? And I just think that it creates a lot of drama that is super unnecessary.
Yeah, I agree. And speaking from, it's like you said, in my opinion, it hurts everybody because you got the golf companies are screwed because you got their limits on what they can build. So research and development, the biggest expense there is, they might as well not even have it now because you can't go beyond, let's say, what X amount of compression on the golf ball. What do they got? Everybody's the same. You might as well. It's kind of like NASCAR. Everybody's got the same engine now.
That's
just go in a loop for 500 miles and everybody does 190. There's no point. So it's the same way. And you got Mrs. Haverkamp out there and Mr. Haverkamp on the Saturday that can't hit it 150 yards off the tee, and they're using the same ball that's rolled back on 30 yards. Now we're hitting it, 110.
Because everyone thinks they're a professional.
Because everybody thinks they're a pro.
Everyone's Tiger
Can't
Woods.
break 110, but we're playing with Pro V1s.
That's right.
You know how it is.
Yeah, and I would say on public golf courses, it's worse.
And not to mention, I thought forever all we've talked about is decreasing the amount of time of play a round takes. So, pace of play. That's all the USGA and them talked about. PGA's done the same thing. Everything's to promote faster rounds so more people will be interested in golf to keep the rounds moving faster. But now we're going to decrease the distance we can hit it, so let's just take a 4-hour round and turn it to 6 because everybody can't hit it out of their shadow.
And let's keep in mind as well, there's plenty of people on tour that don't drive the ball that far. And so if you roll back the golf ball, I just feel like we've come such a long way in golf. Every year we're trying to create better equipment to hit the ball better, to hit the ball more consistent, hit it further. And now I feel like we're trying to go back in time. And
I think everybody loses touch. Personally, the answer to golf's challenging enough as it is. Anybody that plays it should know that. Like, you go out there one day,
Absolutely.
shoot even par, and you're like, I've got this figured out. Go out the very next day, you can't break 80.
Shooting
You don't know
80s.
what you're doing.
That's right.
People that's played it their whole lives do the same thing. But it's like, I don't think rolling back ball distances, cutting driver, not being able to, you can't have a driver face with so much hotness or flex behind it to launch the ball, or making golf courses 8,200 yards, so you can't you got to have 2 golf carts per round to get you around the thing because it takes forever to play and it's entirely too long. I would be willing to stay statistically. You take like our local in Alabama, we've got the RTJ trails. Every one of them's at like 7,500, 7,400 yards. How many people do you think average try to play that? They'll show up. They're like, we're going to play the tips. By the third hole, they've moved up to 6,400 yards because
That's right.
the tips are impossible.
Right.
And this is with equipment that hadn't been rolled back. But it's the answer to me is not limiting equipment because technology is always going to be advancing. The answer is okay. Well, and don't make the courses longer because your average person don't need to be playing those courses, and they're going to want to play where the pros are playing.
Exactly.
I don't know. Let's get creative. Make greens smaller. Make fairways more narrow. Rough thicker. Bigger
Exactly.
greens with more undulation and tighter hole locations. There's 100
plenty of ways to not change a course and
you're hurting,
make it harder.
You're hurting courses that's been there for 100 years. I mean, some of the hardest courses in that I've ever played, it's been some of the oldest courses.
And don't you feel that this is probably more of an issue with, I guess, the old heads of golf, the people that are sitting back in their recliners, with 1 foot in the grave, one on the banana peel,
right,
talking about how, it wasn't like that back in my day, so we should make things different.
I don't know if it's always been like that, but since I've been in the business, it's like every day's argument at the courses leads to, at the end of the argument, the biggest frustration is my tees are shorter than your tees, or your tees are longer than mine. It's not fair. Grow up. Life's not fair. Okay. Everybody's going to age. Everybody's going to move up. You have to serve your time. Everybody wants a freaking participation trophy. That's not the answer either.
But see, I feel like this rollback that they're trying to implement is not even like what does it do? Let's say on tour, what's your average par 3 length on tour? I mean, there's some of those par 3s that are 230, something crazy. So now basically
probably over 200 yards, I would say.
Are we gonna get rid of these further back tee boxes and start making the courses shorter again, or like what are we gonna do?
Personally speaking, funny thing, you like use the par 3s for example. We host the big invitation at Musgrove every year, right? 3-day tournament. What we've started doing on one of the days, never know which one, but number 9 is the par 3 over the river at the club. From the tips, it plays about 135, 140 uphill. Okay, it's probably an average 9-iron for most people. Pitch and wedge to 9-iron, let's say. Possibly 8, depending on how far you hit it. Well, so the front tees where the seniors and ladies boxes are at plays about 90. But it's straight uphill. You'd be surprised. It is amazing the amount of them that struggle more with the 90-yard shot than they do with the 140-yard shot. So is distance really a factor?
That is true because, everywhere you look, professionals will tell you, hey, get good at 120 yards and in, putt and chip. And that's how you're successful in the golf course.
You got people like Bryce and them on what used to be on the tour. Now we're over on the terrace tour.
That's right.
They out there hitting at 430, but hell, they can't make a cut.
Right.
So is this
the answer?
Doing that for
right.
them?
Is it really making?
Personally, I don't. What was it? Augusta's a par 68 or 69 or whatever it was for Bryson, and I don't remember him making the cut at the Masters the last couple times, in my opinion.
And I can't
to hate on him, but he was the longest hitter.
And I can't think of in recent times anyone coming to the tour hitting the ball as long as Bryson. And is he just this guy that came in and started winning every single? I mean, it would be one thing if you took a guy like that and he came in just solely on the fact that he could hit the ball further than you, and he started just winning every single tournament, and you were like, man, we got to do something about this. I mean, he's hitting past all these, because they'll put bunkers in certain places to try to get you to hit your ball into it and stuff like that. But I don't think it's made. We have not seen. There's been no record. There's been nothing in history that suggests you hitting the ball further makes you better than everybody else.
No. Matter of fact, most of the time people would probably tend to say, unless you're just an insane animal at it, typically the guys who bomb it off the tee end up in trouble the most.
That's right.
The reason you go out on a weekend and play with the senior group, and if you bet $1 with them, you've got your eyes dotted, because after you play 18, you're like, how did they just beat me by 8 strokes? Well, I can tell you how. They hit it dead straight. They hit it 225 yards. They don't miss a fairway, and they don't hit it far enough to get in trouble.
That's exactly right.
So they're just keeping it in play. It's all about keeping it in play. Can I hit the next shot? And if I can't, if it's not a penalty? I don't know.
Yeah, and so of course, I mean, the harder that you swing, the further you're trying to hit it. It's the same way in tennis or other sports. You get out of control.
The more
you don't know where it's going to go.
It doesn't matter who you are. I don't care how good you are. The harder you swing, the more error you get involved. So to me, that we've been through this before. Over the years, speaking through golf, it's always the one that comes to mind is the long putter. They can't anchor because they're making every putt. Well, I would see a bunch of some of the senior guys using it because it was better on their backs or something like that. But I don't recall everybody on tour having a long putter.
Everyone swapping because it was that much better.
Now,
exactly.
If I had 64 guys after the cut in a tournament on the PGA Tour, and all 64 of them had a long putter and they shot 22 under par, yeah, we might want to look at that. But it's the same thing. Anytime that somebody thinks they've gained traction that is leading to an advantage over the game, here comes the rules police, the USGA and the RNA, and they're going to try to get involved, and this is what it creates, and it's just a media topic and explosion. And but in reality, if it all comes down to it, they'll probably never even roll it back. I don't think that. I think if they do, will the tour and them even accept it? Because then again, you can always implement a local rule or whatever that says we're not following that.
I just can't believe that, and I think it goes to show how many people fall under the whole herd mentality, the followers. Exactly. I can't believe that all these tour players haven't stood up and said, hey, none of us are playing with that rule, and if y'all want to make that rule cool, we'll all go home for the next few weeks until y'all decide that you're going to get rid of that. I can't believe that the players themselves, because wouldn't you say, to be frank with you, most sports you look at, professional sports, basketball, football, it's all a bunch of people that are primarily more liberal. And you look at golf, and I think it's kind of the opposite. I think most of those guys are, big conservative guys that you would think would be leaders that would stand up and say, no, we're not, hey, y'all are not going to come in and do this to us. But no one's really stood up and said anything.
I think a lot of times they've forgotten what kind of power they do have in numbers, and they can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a PGA Tour player or a member of the PGA Tour, but I'm pretty sure when the tour was created with Nicklaus and all those guys back in the day, it was the Players Tour, and the players have a board on that, and these guys that are running the tour, in my opinion, I could be wrong, but I feel like if the players don't want it, there's nothing they can do about it. I mean, they should have the final call. I mean, it's like PGA of America. We have 28,000 members of the PGA of America, all golf professionals, and we have a board that runs the PGA of America that we elect at our meetings. But in reality, if 28,000 of us don't want to do it, they ain't gonna do it.
Exactly.
I'm just saying. I don't know how that whole thing works. But.
And we have people like Rory and Tiger who have stepped up and said, hey, we're gonna have these board meetings and all. But it's like, what did y'all do? Y'all had all these meetings and everything, and the media was covering it. What did you do?
Personally, board meetings and any type of thing that leads to nothing but random discussion and anger. What the players need to get together and have a meeting and walk to the PGA Tour headquarters and say, we ain't doing this and we ain't playing.
How many people have their tour card? What is it, like 200? It's something like. There's a cutoff to how many people.
125 get a card every year, I believe. Okay. Double check me on that. Like I said, I'm not.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe just 125.
Press,
but my point is, why can you not? Wouldn't you say that most of those people, they all know each other and they're all somewhat buddies? I mean, there's probably people that are like, I don't really associate with him. But it's a tight group. It's not like, there's a million of us out here and it's like, there's a tight group of y'all. And all y'all would really have to do is form a little group text and text each other and say, hey, no one goes to this next, or we know what, this tournament's coming up. We're not playing in it. No one show up.
Right.
And I think you could all skip one tournament and go home with your family and spend time with your family. Yep. And I think that whatever you wanted, they would allow, because guess what? They can't make their money if you're not playing in their events.
And let's be honest, most of the world, even including in golf, professional sports is the king in rules, because yes, we have, the USGA runs the U.S. Open and the U.S. Amateur and the U.S. Junior Amateur and these prestigious amateur events. But you're not tuning in at 7 o'clock in the evening to watch you will the U.S. Open. It's the U.S. Open. And you probably will the U.S. Am. But all these other ones, prestigious events, fantastic. But if we're looking at that event versus the PGA Tour event, I think everybody's going over here to watch this. They want to see the professional sports side of it. So in reality, USGA and them may make the rules, but kind of makes me tend to think that the professional sports and people that follow it keep the game make the game what it is. I mean, relevancy.
Well, we'll see what happens, but one thing that we do know is that our boy Jay Monahan, the trader, the guy who got his pockets stuffed with cash to make a deal, he's against the rollback. All of a sudden, Mr. Courageous, stand up in front of many, be a leader. Yeah, that guy, he's now decided that hey, we're not doing this rollback. Mr. Tough Guy, right?
Right. Well, it's tough until the Terrace Tour rolls in, and who knows? Maybe they rode in on the camel and threatened him. I guess I don't know.
Maybe so.
If the players don't want it, the players need to put a stop to it, because ultimately the tour is nothing without the members playing on the tour.
That's exactly right.
And to my money talks, and unfortunately in this world we live in, you see fewer and fewer of it. But in my opinion, Monahan took a stance at the beginning of this and took some heat for it. Because like we probably would, it's not politically correct. You can't call it the Terrace Tour. Oh heavens, even though they funded it.
Right.
Just saying, you follow the money trail. It leads you to the terrorist group. Can't bring peace to the Middle East. I don't reckon anymore.
Yeah.
So, but they
speaks about that in the Bible. So.
He took a stance, and I think everybody pretty much in the world of golf, like you speak, is most of the time there's not a very liberal mindset of a person, and I think everybody was pretty proud that, like, of all sports, golf's going to stand up. I mean, what's right's what's right, but like normal, he takes a little heat, somebody puts a little pressure on him, and then we back down and we start backpedaling. Oh, and then by the time you know it, we've signed a deal with the Terrace Group. So Ahmed and his band of minions over there swimming in oil is now going to take over probably the oldest game there is and most historic, and it's all because of we're not affiliated with him, but the guy, like most people, doesn't stand up for what they believe in. In reality, he probably doesn't like it either, as far as being owned by the Terrace Tour, because
the check they wrote him, though, I bet he liked that.
The Terrace Tour. I'm just saying,
are.
but and everybody will say, well, that's silly. The amount of money they're offering, who wouldn't take it? Well, if you have any morals, perhaps you would.
Well, speaking of morals, Greg Norman, the face of that, the guy that got that all started, that got that going, they just canned him. They had no problem stabbing him in the back, did they? So what do you think they're going to do to you?
Oh, well,
that was the face of their dang organization, was Greg Norman. And they just basically made this deal with the PGA or with the with the tour and said, "Hey, Greg, you're out."
Yeah, I mean it's amazing. Like I said, money talks. They use you're a pawn in their game. Then they used him until they were through, and then of course we've purchased Monahan and part of our Terrace Tour that we're wanting. And now we're through with him, so you're next. But get ready, you'll be next on their radar, because ultimately you may say, oh, well, they only got 2 seats on the board of the PGA Tour. Well, I bet you let them keep getting involved, before you know it, the whole board will be nothing but terrorist group.
And what's sad is that I really genuinely believe that the majority of people are waiting for someone to stand up and do something. I think that, you hear everyone talking about, someone should do something, someone should stand up. I look at someone like, there's been some country music artists lately that have kind of slipped up or whatever and said some things that they got canceled for. And as soon as that happened, as soon as the liberal media basically attacked them to cancel them, their music went to the #1. Jason Aldean just released a song that was talking about try that in a small town. Basically, you come in here rioting in our town, you ain't gonna last long.
Right.
And so that, everyone's all mad about that, trying to cancel him. His song went #1, shot up in the charts. I wonder why that is.
Tell you what most of the country wants.
So for golf, when most of your fans, I feel, share your same mindset, why would you not stand up and say, hey, we're not doing any of this, and you know what, if they want to cut our TV rights, whatever, we'll video it ourselves, we'll put it on a different platform, we'll make a platform. But, and I think if they did that, they would do huge numbers. People that didn't even like golf would start watching golf just to support you, and they won't do it. They just fall in line, and I think that, either a lot of people are blackmailed or a lot of people are making a lot of money and are making selfish decisions.
The phrase that former President Trump used, "You go woke, you go broke." Eventually,
it will catch up.
You catch up.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And typically, it's funny. You watch them come squealing back to whomever they have canceled or dropped or whatever. Not that I'm a giant fan, but look at Justin Thomas. The TV cameras picks up something you've mouthed to yourself while you're on doing your job, playing in a tournament, and next thing you know, we've got Polo and them who have just canceled him.
Right.
But it's funny they come crawling back when they found out he started winning again and they hated to lose that sponsorship.
Right, exactly. And speaking of that, it's so funny how
good for him for not
he says a
back.
word. He says a word. Right, which a lot of people, there's been, a lot of probably older people would say, oh, that's not a nice word, that's a bad word.
Sure.
I got news for you. In every high school or, college, anywhere I've ever been, people just go around calling people that. That's what they say. And they're not demeaning gay people. They're just saying, oh, it's just a word. Now, it may, and first of all, if you look in the dictionary, I think the definition of that word is a pile of sticks. So it's funny how someone says a word and they get in. If you think, who else do you know on tour was repping Polo?
Yeah,
I don't know anybody.
Nobody.
I don't know anybody.
They pretty much lost it on that one.
And they kick off Justin Thomas.
Mistake.
I'm not even a huge fan of Justin Thomas. Okay, War Eagle, and they kicked this guy out and said, we don't want you representing us anymore. And then they came crawling back to him.
Well, here's a way to look at it, because everybody's real quick to judge on things. But think of it this way: if I come to your office, right, and I'm sitting there watching you work, and you let off a slur or some word like that, and then I go tell everybody, don't do business with Andrew because he let this word off, while I was at your place of business, at your job, minding your own business. Same guy with these guys. Just because they're on TV playing a course, their job is to be out there on that golf course. They're playing golf, whether the fans are there or not. That's their job. So mind your own business.
Well,
let the guys do their job, and because most of that is entertaining the.
But although Justin, and let's be honest, as a professional, he probably shouldn't have said that word out there. But let's be honest. After that happened, didn't you see a lot of people supporting Justin Thomas more than normal?
Well,
people
it's because people are tired of big companies and big governments and multi-billion-dollar media organizations being able to dictate who's relevant and who's not. Just because he said a bad word, all the big money is going to go after him. Well, the people, ultimately is what made those companies what they are, or so. They should, the people revolt, they ain't got nothing.
Well, I think golf is facing the, same thing that America's facing. It's all these crazy rules and regulations coming to give people certain control.
And terrorists moving in your hometown, that's, even better.
I think that just like in the country.
Money's buying off the leaders just like they are in the rest of the world.
Golf and the country are related. I think they're going to take advantage of you and do what they want to do to benefit themselves until people decide, you know what, we're going to stand up and do something about this. And ultimately, I think that the players are the ones that are going to have to stand up and say, we're not doing this anymore. We're going to go home and, with our millions of dollars. And real quick too, how unfair. I know we're kind of getting off topic. We're talking about the rollback, but just talking about the terrace tour made me think of something. You paid these guys like Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka all this money, Dustin Johnson, all these millions of dollars to come play, and now y'all are merging, and all these people that stood firm and said, no, we're not going to take that money. We're going to stand with the PGA Tour. We're not going anywhere. Basically, they just lost out on hundreds of millions of dollars for no reason when y'all were going to merge anyways.
That's right.
Man.
Why
I'll be honest with you.
The tour?
We'd have gone back in time. I'd have got a group of people. We'd have showed up with pitchforks, and this old Jay wouldn't have been in good shape.
Yep, power's in the people, or power in the players for the golf world.
But we've probably gone over time a little bit. But so that's all. You got anything else?
That's all I got. You got my blood pressure. All right, guys. I think that's all the time we've got for today. We appreciate you tuning in to Against the Grain, brought to you by 16 Under Golf. If you see the hats up on the counter, we're looking at probably bringing in some merchandise here pretty soon. We've done a little bit of some testing with it, and it seems to be popular with the logos and everything.
Pretty good.
Comment on that if you want to possibly look into ordering a hat or possibly some shirts, whatever we end up coming up with.
That's right. Let us know in the comments what you guys want to see. You know, if you want shirts, stickers, just whatever. We obviously don't want to do anything that's too expensive. You know, we want to keep it price friendly for you guys. And hey, we got a lot of opinions up here. So if you agree with us, disagree with us,
let us know.
Let us know in the comments. We'd love to talk to you guys and see what y'all think. But that's all I got.
That's all from me. Appreciate y'all watching. Thanks.